Today on The Young and the Restless, Victor taunts Kyle and Diane, Claire senses Summer's jealousy, and Jordan discovers Claire's relationship. All products and services featured are independently chosen by editors. However, soaps.com may receive a commission on orders placed through its retail links, and the retailer may receive certain auditable data for accounting purposes. At the Abbott house, Jack and Diane celebrate pulling this off on Victor. He had no idea Jack bought up his glissade divisions for pennies on the dollar. Jack tells his wife she's being rewarded for the sacrifices she made to bring their son back to them. She hopes he's right that their family has turned a corner. He asks, "What? You don't think we have?" Diane complains that his sisters are still mad at her. Jack says they'll come around. Diane says Tracy might, but Ashley, no way. Talk turns to Billy and Jack says he has bigger issues with him than he'd ever have with her. He has to tell them the truth, but isn't looking forward to it. Diane hopes he'll speak to Kyle too and pushes him to put aside the lingering tension today. Jack is being cautious. Diane argues that he should clear the air sooner rather than later. Jack asks her to trust his judgment. At the ranch, Nikki tells Claire she wants more for her than just being her assistant. She instructs her to soak up all that she can. Worrying, Nikki asks if she's sure this is still what she wants. Claire is eager to hit the ground running and hope her instincts are right, that she could be great at this. Nikki says she has the brains and drive. "You are a Newman through and through." Claire tells Nikki this is the day she has to tell Harrison she won't be his nanny anymore. Claire admits it makes her feel sad that she'll see the boy less now. Nikki asks if that's true. Victoria mentions she and Kyle have become closer. Claire says it's all new to her. It's one of the reasons she's been afraid to mention the job to him. It's not just Harrison, it's where I'll be working. She doesn't want working for Victor to make things awkward between them. Nikki thinks if Kyle really cares about her, he'll be happy for her. Besides, she's working for her. Claire is still dreading this. Nikki advises her not to hold back on doing what she wants to do or feeling how she wants to feel, because she's worried how someone will react. Never give your power to someone. Claire thinks she's right. I just need to trust that he'll understand. If he doesn't, she won't give it up. Nikki says, "Good girl." At Society, Kyle and Summer laugh and chat about Harrison over breakfast. They go over the schedule for their son and he tells her he's returning as co-CEO of Jabot. Summer is really happy for him. She asks what this means for Diane. Kyle says everyone is happy and on board. Summer learns the tension between his parents was all an act for Victor's benefit. She's not sure she follows. He says it's better she doesn't. Summer thinks it's classic Diane. Kyle says his father was in on it too. Summer thinks that's proof that Diane's a bad influence. Kyle doesn't want to go on resenting his parents and believes it was out of love. Summer finds the words Diane and love to be incompatible. Victor walks in as Kyle says, "Summer, Diane offered to stop aside and give up her co-CEO job for me." "What else would you call it?" Victor approaches and greets Summer, before asking her to give him and Kyle some privacy. Summer congratulates Kyle again and exits. Victor sits down and says, "So Kyle." The prodigal son returns. He muses that everything seems to be forgiven. Jack and Diane have reunited. Who would have imagined? Kyle calls him out for what he tried to do to him and his family. "I will never forgive you for that." Victor smirks. He asks exactly what he's being accused of. Kyle says he didn't care about his future or glissade. He used them both to hurt his father. But he failed. They're closer than ever. Victor thinks he proved how fragile their family really is, and claims he knew Diane was on his side. He taunts Kyle about his mommy, giving him the keys to the office back. She'll take them back and more. Victor says he knows his mother well, and points out that her play acting was a little too realistic. Kyle argues that she was good at the ruse. Victor says, no. Underneath it all she's full of vitriol and hatred. He's set a time bomb in the Abbott household and sitting back and waiting for it to explode. I always play the long game. Jack arrives at the ranch and marvels about the original details to Nikki. It not only looks like the old place, it also feels like the old place. I've got a lot of memories here. Nikki nods, yes. Happy ones, Jack says, and some not so happy. That's the story of their lives, isn't it? Nikki asks why he stopped by. He wanted to wish her well at Chancellor despite how it happened. He thinks Catherine would approve. He worries about the responsibility
Jack
and
asks,
stress. Would I be wrong? Nikki knows that running Chancellor will be stressful, but she's ready to take it on. Her sponsor tells her to take it one day at a time. They agree it's not always so easy. The need to take a drink is always in there, and she doesn't underestimate its power. Jack will always be there when it comes to her commitment to being sober. They go over Victor's revenge plot after the night at the club. Nikki says he saved her life, but there was a high price to pay. Was it worth it? Jack said as she's there and about to start on one of the biggest adventures of her life, that would be a hell of a thing to miss, wouldn't it? Nikki beams. Nikki and Jack get on to talking about Diane. He knows she's disappointed about their reconciliation. Nikki can't understand it after everything she's done. Jack says it's more complicated than she knows. Nikki argues she's the same she's always been, selfish and entitled. Jack disagrees with her, although he can see how it might look that way sometimes. Nikki sniffs that Diane was able to reel him back in against all odds. Jack has to tell her the truth. He confesses that the public arguments were all an act to open Kyle's eyes to Victor using him. None of it was real. Nikki's stunned. She didn't know he and Diane were such good actors. Jack says it was painful, but they had to do something. Nikki says it was another desperate move. Jack says she's not the first person to bring that up. At Society, Kyle answers his phone to Claire, who is at Crimson Lights, and asks him to stop by on his way to work. There's something she wants to talk about. He agrees and disconnects. Dean comes in and wants to talk to Kyle, but he tells her he has to meet up with Claire. He leaves and Diane turns to see Victor staring at her. He says, "You know your family will never be whole again." Diane scoffs that he's struck out. Kyle is back at Jabut and she and Jack are stronger than ever. Victor says that Kyle isn't impressing anyone who matters in the corporate world by returning to Jabut. He lets her know that he's aware the washing of dirty laundry between her and Jack Abbott was a ruse. He informs Diane that she overplayed her hand. When she asked for Glissade, he knew the fix was in. Diane says, "And yet you gave it to me anyway." Victor says it's an empty shell and tells her to do with it what she wants. They compare notes on family feuds. Diane tells him not to pass judgment on her. Victor's sure in time, Jack and Kyle will find out who she really is and what she's really after. He warns her not to get too damn comfortable at home. Summer runs into Claire at Crimson Lights, and they compare notes. Summer says she had a fun morning with Harrison and Kyle. They agree the kid is irresistible. Summer explains that she and Kyle had breakfast together after getting him off to school. It makes the boy happy to know they can do that. Claire says he's mentioned that. She asks her cousin to stick around. She has news for Kyle and she should hear it too. Summer has already figured out that she's taking the job with their grandmother. She knows Harrison will be super disappointed. Claire still plans to spend time with him after she moves on. Summer asks, "Because of your relationship with Kyle?" Claire hedges, "I wouldn't call what Kyle and I have a relationship." Summer asks what she'd call it. She's seen them out together and she's been glowing. Claire asks it if upset her. Summer tells her to relax. Who Kyle spends her time with only concerns her as it pertains to her son. They agree she's not a threat like Audra Charles, but Summer admits she's worried about Harrison being upset about her not being his nanny anymore. Claire says she'll still be in his life. Summer replies that she won't be the nanny, she'll be the girlfriend. There's a big difference. Kyle walks in and Summer announces that Claire has big news for them. She's leaving Harrison to go work at Chancellor. Kyle frowns and Claire's jaw drops. Kyle asks if it's true. Claire says it is. Kyle wonders why he's just hearing about it now. Claire wanted to tell him herself. Summer says she's sorry, she didn't know it was a surprise. Claire tells Kyle he's been busy and she didn't want to bother him with this. Summer muses, "That's considerate." Claire points out how she feels about Harrison, but he doesn't need her as much now that he's back in school. Summer says he's a job to her, not her son, so it's different. Claire says yeah and explains that she did some soul-searching and couldn't pass up the opportunity with Nikki. Kyle takes her hand and tells her he wouldn't want her to think her hopes and dreams mean less than his. He's happy for her. Summer points out Harrison will be very disappointed. Claire says that's why she wants to be very careful about how she tells him. Kyle says she'll still be part of his life and is becoming even more a part of his. Summer says she and Claire were discussing this.